Oh, don't bite me! No, stop! Oh. Took this. Why are you doing it?
I'm very excited to hear what you have to say because
Oh my god.
I have somewhat limited knowledge. I'm mostly interested in like Clone Wars and stuff like that. But me and Leg have talked about how like we're really like like happy about what's the I don't know if it's on Netflix, but the series just a bunch of animation.
Oh yeah, Visions.
Oh, Visions
Yeah.
is super cool because
Oh.
it explores a bunch of different concepts with that kind of Star Wars scope to it, but it's not like beholden to the Lucas or the Filoni universe. It's just like it's just fun. It's
Yeah.
really fun to see what artists can create with those. The second season, I liked actually the second season a lot more than the first one because I felt like when the first one they were trying to get a feel for it, and then the second one it's like everyone knew what the assignment was after the first Visions came out. Oh my gosh, there's so much Star Wars content now. I love it and I hate it because it's always like a it's such a huge like risk and reward when it comes to Disney getting their grubby hands on any sort of anything that they can squeeze money out of. And for a moment there, it was starting to look like Star Wars is becoming the new Marvel, where they just pump out a new TV series every month. But then I think now they I forget. I think it was like Bob Iger or Dave Filoni or a conjunction of people. Basically, they were like, all right, we're gonna cool it after we do the most recent series. Or like we're gonna cool it a little bit on releases, and we're gonna start focusing on films now. Which I'd rather see more films.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been at least 10 years since we've got a Star Wars film. I'm not talking about the most recent 3.
Yeah.
They didn't happen. And I had a blacking out. Hi.
Yeah, but I think like as far as my Star Wars experience, I watched the prequels and the original films. I played some of the video games, like the original Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Watch those wrist rockets.
Yeah.
Just like the simulations.
Yeah. And I think the last Star Wars movie I watched was the first one in the new series.
Which was not a bad film.
Yeah.
I will say that the first one wasn't bad, but it was like huge nostalgia bait. It didn't really break from that mold of like the original like New Hope. It was very much just like 1-to-1. Everything played out the way the New Hope played out.
Yeah.
To almost to a key.
Oh no, I did also watch Rogue One.
Oh, I was just about to mention that.
Rogue One's super awesome, and the show that came out, I'm trying to remember the name of the character. They did a show based off of the character from Rogue One. That was really fun. Let me get his name really quick. I think is Cassie Andor. Okay, so yeah, the series is called Andor, and it's like a prequel to the Rogue One. So if that was something you wanted to see, you wouldn't have to watch anything else. You could literally just watch that series. Captures that same sort of like wartime, very gritty Star Wars, but it also it fills in a lot of lore. You get to see a lot of things you don't see in any of the big movies. You get to see like what Coruscant's like in an Imperial, era. And you get to see a bunch of little like details like that, and how the other like outer worlds from the core, how they are treated by the Empire, and why it leads to the rebels, like in Rogue One and all that. They're actually doing a whole new season of that. Apparently, that one did really well, so they're continuing it. We're gonna get more Rogue One. I like Rogue One a lot too. I've always been more of like a like my core was like Clone Wars. I really enjoyed the whole Clone Wars saga. I think my first Star Wars movie was Return of the Jedi. I had like the old VHS box tapes, and I was like really, really young. I was at a flea market, and we were getting VHS tapes at like somebody's stand in the big flea market, and it was like a box set of the 3, and for some reason I chose to skip all the first 2 to watch Return of the Jedi. I had no idea what was going on, but there was a lot of flashing lights and fantasy, sci-fi stuff, so I was really, really over the moon for that. That was like my first experience, but the original trilogy, or the prequels, the prequels were really cool. I kind of got really into those as a kid, and still am very, very happy whenever I see new stuff with the prequels.
Yeah. Like, I know a lot of people hate the prequels, and there's kind of been a turning around on it ever since the newer movies came out, because they're like, I didn't like the prequels, but the new movies suck, so maybe the prequels weren't that bad.
Yeah, they were, from what I've heard, like the prequels were not liked at all.
Oh, no.
When they came out. No one liked the prequels for the most part. People were very let down by it. Which blows my mind, because as a kid I was like, oh my god, pod racing, wow.
Yeah. Like, I grew up on the prequels, so like I never understood why people hated them, but like that's my kid bias, seeing the prequels before the original movies.
It's at the end of the day, you know, like when I see a Star Wars film, I'm just like, it doesn't need to be like extremely good. Like any sort of like sci-fi movie, it just needs to not take a really bad take.
Yeah.
It doesn't need, because the newest trilogy had some really bad takes, had some really bad scenarios, a lot of behind the scenes nasty stuff. But like the original trilogy is just super neat. I think the games were really good, but we don't really get a lot of Star Wars games. But the newest games that came out, I played. It is called Jedi Survivor, but it was also like a different. It's Fallen Order was the first one, and then Jedi Survivor is the newest one. And they're actually Bloodborne Souls-like play style, and like, Jackie activated.
Yeah, I always hear good things about those ones, and I've been really curious about them.
I love it, especially the newest one, because the first one that came out was very much like it was a story game Souls-like, so it wasn't too free roam. But you can go back and forth between like a couple of planets and do puzzles, and then you would unlock an ability in the story, and then you can go back and then do a puzzle that you couldn't do before. That was fun. Just the boss fights are really fun. Like I love Souls-like games for the fact that I can eat dirt for like an hour and learn a boss and their mechanics, and then just beat it. And that game accomplished that sort of feel. And then the second game was just like open world Star Wars Souls-like, and that was even crazier because it was just like a lot of planets you can go to, a lot of repeatable content, a lot of spawned in monsters and people you'd come across. And, that was a fun experience. Big game. I bet it would have done a lot better if they didn't release it too soon and had all the bugs that it did.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. I know they're gonna make a third one, so we're gonna get another Star Wars Jedi game, which I'm excited for. But they're remastering some of the old ones, like let me see. I actually wishlisted it. It's based around like the original movies. Where do I even look at my game wish list? Store? Yeah, actually. Oh my gosh. Did y'all get any fun games by the way, for the Cringemas?
I haven't shopped around for games yet because I've been buying a bunch of stuff for Jackie.
Yeah.
I love that. John and I, we do this thing where he'll like gift art, like he'll buy art of like the two of us, and then I'll be like, all right, I'm next, and I'll try to get art of the two of us. And we just go back and forth, and then I'll draw him like little gifts here and there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I draw like shit all the time. I can't stop.
It's
I drew
so
us
easy.
playing video games. I love
Yeah.
you.
I love you.
It's so funny. It's like Jaw's characters become like my most like I could draw his character without reference. I know his colors without reference is how much I've drawn him. And it was Star Wars Dark Forces, which is like a really old kind of like Duke Nukem-esque game. I guess I was gonna pivot as much as I love to talk about Jaw all the time. I'm so happy because Jal hasn't watched a lot of Star Wars, so it's been fun introducing him to all of it. And
Nice.
we rewatched all of like the Clone Wars, the cartoon, which is we have this joke, which is just like children's show. It's a children's show as like a person gets like executed and decapitated with like showing the head rolling off their shoulders and like people getting impaled and stabbed with lightsabers and they're like cut in half. Literally, they have like a scene where this guy gets force grabbed by someone else. I won't spoil it. They force grab him, and he's like trying to like get through a door that's closing, like one of those big starship metal doors, and it just like intersects, and the guy force pulls his arm through the door as it's about to close, and the arm gets chopped off. And I just like look at Joel. I'm just like, children's show. It's a children's show. So we watched that because a lot of the newer Star Wars content hinges on what Dave Filoni has kind of created, because they kind of rewrote the canon of Star Wars when Disney got their hands on it. Not a lot of people realize when they say it was like, oh, Disney killed canon Star Wars and made it all like Legends is what they rebranded it as. In truth, it was actually it was Dave Filoni, the man that George Lucas entrusted with the full creative control of Star Wars. This is basically his understudy when the movies were coming out too. He got his hands on the full creative control and decided to, as much as the lore that he loved, he's the one that made what was Legends and what wasn't Legends. Which fascinates me because not a lot of people know that little detail, that Dave Filoni is the person that, killed a lot of the old canon.
Yeah.
But what's great is he's reintroducing a lot of it in this new content. In a way, he's rectifying a lot of the mistakes that happened when the new films came out. He's writing in stories to fill the gaps between the newest movies and the Clone Wars, and he redid the Clone Wars, added a whole lot of new content to the Clone Wars of just like different battles and the stories between he created Ahsoka, which is like my favorite character.
Yeah, I do love Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's great, and she as well was not liked when she first was created.
Yeah.
But as you watch like the Clone Wars show, she really like grows on you, and you watch as she becomes a very like a very good Jedi, a very likable character, very reasonable. And what I like most about her is that she's not even like a Jedi when she comes to like full adult form and how she is perceived now in content, without like spoiling her journey too much for people that might want to watch the Clone Wars and see all this firsthand. But like, she is the best not Jedi that you can possibly think. Like she's like the greatest example of what a Jedi should be, which is like one of my favorite things. Oh gosh, but Dave Filoni, he's been like reintroducing a lot of the old canon, and then the newest series, like the Ahsoka series. I don't know if it did too well, but it definitely set the scope for the future of Star Wars. Why we haven't seen too much Star Wars recently is because that series really does like, it paints a picture for like our new Infinity Wars of Star Wars content, essentially. It gives us a big bad. It gives us somewhat of like pieces that that we can put together of what they're trying to do, and it's in its own rights, it's its own little story that's going to be happening now. And I think every show that came out before this was introducing new characters and reintroducing characters, and I'm very excited to see everybody kind of mesh together in a big storytelling pot and see like how they all tackle this big threat on the horizon. I'm very excited. Like, Dave Filoni has done an astounding job, like refreshing Star Wars for for me and for a lot of people. The Star Killer Sam Witwer got the voice of Darth Maul, and a lot of other characters too. Sam Witwer's the. Have you ever seen Star Wars: The Force Unleashed? It's an older game.
Yeah, I have seen stuff about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so he Star Killer is that character from that game, which the VA Sam Witwer actually is modeled after him. Huge Star Wars fan, and really funny to see how even though Star Killer isn't canon anymore, Dave Filoni has found ways to reintroduce Sam Witwer to the series, and he's a very good voice actor, so they took him on as Darth Maul's voice actor, and he's got a lot of mileage in that field, which is awesome. I absolutely adore the Clone Wars series a lot.
Oh my god,
and
yeah.
highly recommend it if you ever need something to watch. It's one of those funny things where it's a toony it's a cartoon, and then the more you watch it, it comes into its own image, and then it begins to become more serious or follow more of a flow. But there's a weird thing too, because it's not in chronological order. So if you watch season 1 of the Clone Wars, for some reason it's out of order, and season 3 is actually when you would want truly the beginning of the chronological order, and season 2 is a mixed match of episodes. It's odd. The final season's very, very emotional though. And was crazy. It actually never finished when it was on Cartoon Network originally with Dave Filoni, before Star Wars was purchased by Disney. They kind of, I think the last episode was kind of the same. It was the same season where Ahsoka moves on, and it kind of explains why Ahsoka's not Anakin's Padawan in the movies, and why she's just not mentioned whatsoever in the movies, because she wasn't an idea back then. But
Yeah.
they have to write her out somehow why she's not there anymore, and it ends on her just leaving the Jedi Order, to go be herself and to figure herself out after a lot of problems that happen. And what's crazy is that the newest season that they did was the final season, and they concluded that story. And they also tied in a lot of little details, and they added a little bit more story to kind of build up the live action movies, or not the live action movies, but live action shows that came out. So much Mandalorian content. Do you know a bit about the Mandalorians of the?
I know next to nothing about Mandalorians.
Oh boy, Mandalorians are a whole thing in their own right. You know Jango Fett or Boba Fett. So Boba Fett and Jango Fett are Mandalorians. Boba Fett is the son of Jango Fett, clone of Jango Fett, son more so though. Very much a son in the way that he was treated, and he wasn't hyper accelerated aged, so he grew up like a normal person. They're Mandalorians, and Mandalorians are notorious or famous bounty hunters mostly. They're usually in professions that require hired killing and other sort of combatant sort of things, because they're a warrior culture in Star Wars. They're their own sort of people that they live on the planet Mandalore, which is this war-torn planet. And the final series, the Clone Wars series, actually tackles a lot into the Mandalorian side of the story and lore, because I guess Dave Filoni really liked the Mandalorian lore, because it's I'd say next to just the Force in terms of Star Wars lore, Mandalorians are neck and neck for most popular thing about Star Wars, I think. So they tell a lot more about their story. They were a warlike people that would wander the galaxy and just fight and maraud, and very, very barbarian-esque warrior people. I'd actually describe more like Spartans, like Spartan culture. But then they become more of a peaceful people, and they become more neutral, and they focus more on themselves after a turn of the century. but then that all ends in the Clone Wars. They become more warrior-like again, and the Empire does a lot of junk with them and messes them up, and they go back to like being more of a warrior type people. We see a lot of that in the Clone Wars, and then that builds up actually because the biggest thing that came out of all the live actions was the Mandalorian show. And that was very revolutionary, and I think that was like the beginning of people going, oh my god, the Star Wars live action TV series are extremely incredible. And we get to see a lot of like that warrior culture and how they conduct themselves. They're very like secret enclaves, and they're all bounty hunters. They all go out into the universe. They do their own like cowboy thing. And then they slowly like introduce you to this guy named the Mandalorian. He's really cool. He's the character that's portrayed by Pedro Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I believe the character's name is Din Djarin, but people just call him Mando. Because the thing is, like, Mandalorians are so, like, there are not a lot of them left at this point in the story. Like, a lot of them die off due to the Empire, like, bombs their planet to try to like eradicate them because they're just like too much of a problem to handle because they're just really strong warriors. They have like blaster resistant armor that they wear, which was another reason why they were just like too much to handle. So they're like basically they're like the anti-foot soldier type of unit in like the lore. They can just like one Mandalorian is like 30 to 50 stormtroopers or more, even more than that. And that's why the Mandalorians and the Jedi would always fight back in like ancient history, like Old Republic era and stuff. Also, oh my gosh, don't even get me started with the Old Republic. You ever play the KOTOR games?
I haven't.
The KOTOR games. Oh my gosh, now the KOTOR games are that's a whole thing. I don't think any of that is canon anymore, but they're remaking the Knights of the Old Republic games. I believe they're making both of them meshed into one game. And what's crazy about get started on the Old Republic. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna tell you right now, like, you're gonna really like this one character named HK47 if you ever play it. The game, he is very very gender robot, very great. They love killing. They just love killing. Chai and I go on for hours about HK47 and just like Star Wars creating its like just this fun sexy robots. But like the Old Republic's just really cool. They're remaking it. They're remaking it, but the funniest thing happened recently where the trailer for the Old Republic was released, teasing that, it's going to be remade and everything. It's been in development hell for years, as most games are nowadays. Then they randomly take the trailer down a few months back. They took the trailer down, and Sony didn't say a word about it. They just took it down. No one knew why. People assumed, I guess it's just not going to happen now. The project's dead. Then Sony releases an official statement saying, no, it's still a project. It's still being developed. However, we lost the rights to the trailer music for the Star Wars game. The Star Wars branded music lost its rights to play its Star Wars branded game, and so they had to take the whole trailer down, and they haven't put a new one up yet to my knowledge. But the thought of like this like Sony losing the rights to the music in their own game is like wild to me.
Yeah.
But Old Republic's super fun, and it explores a lot of the older big name characters like Revan and Jedi stuff, a lot of Jedi stuff. And then there's the MMO, which is still holding out strong. The Old Republic MMO is one of the first like MMOs I really got into before WoW. Let me see. It's on Steam. They moved it to Steam, which I think expanded its like life expectancy by a whole lot. The Star Wars Old Republic MMO is cool because it kind of takes place in that Empire versus Republic era again. Where but the difference between then and like the newer movies and like the old trilogy is that there are a lot of Jedi and a lot of Sith, and they're fighting. Like it's just a war between the two of them, and everyone's just caught between it. And you can pick to be in the Empire and be a Sith, or like an Imperial agent, or like a bounty hunter or something, or you could be like on the Republic side in the MMO, and then you could be like kind of the inverse of every class basically on that side. And it's a very big game. They got like the entire galaxy and a lot of bonus planets. And what's cool is they actually remastered the way the MMO is played, so that you can just play it as a single player experience.
Oh.
Because the storytelling is very good. Like it's very Telltales-esque. Like if you make a decision in the story in like one area that's like a very dark-sided decision, you get some dark side points. Something bad happens, but it might benefit you. Or if you want to be bad to be bad, like that's totally cool. Or you want to be good to be good. I always liked skirting the middle. Like, I always liked the gray Jedi sort of path where I liked being a Sith that made good guy choices. That was actually my favorite. Because it's always funny whenever you come across a Jedi in that game, and you decide to like let some people go or not kill anyone, and then the one Jedi that was there with them as like an escort runs up and it's just like, you're totally like, this is a trick, right? You're just trying to you're trying to trick me, and then like literally just gives themselves a conniption, and then they just like their brain melts because they can't handle it, and then they do something really dark-sided, because a lot of Jedi and also a lot of Sith were not really good at being either or. They just kind of recruited in mass because of the war.
Yeah.
So like it was always funny like making Jedi just like break, just breaking them when you do good guy choices as a Sith. And then they introduced a lot of like fun like beyond the universe, beyond the galaxy sort of content in that. And that was the first time they ever broke the in a galaxy far, far away trend. But it wasn't canon. So none of that's canon technically. But in the most recent series and all the recent shows, Dave Filoni has begun to break that mold of in a galaxy far, far away, and introduced aspects of Star Wars that are beyond our universe, or rather, when I say our universe, but like within the story itself. And they even go to a galaxy not of the galaxy that's told in the story, and it's really cute because they named the episode "A Galaxy Far, Far Away." And then they go to a whole other galaxy. And I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? You just throw the whole manual out the book. We're in a whole new galaxy now. It doesn't make sense. It's crazy. But they do tell, like the Force isn't, like, dictated by whether or not you are a Sith or a Jedi. Like, the Force is the Force, and it's how you wield it, and they really drive that home a lot. Oh, I'm all over the place. Any questions? Oh, I have one thing, but any questions?
I mean, that's the thing I love about info dumping is like you can just go off about whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I love having like no direction in this.
Oh, okay. You wanna hear a fun fact about the Mandalorian TV show?
Mm-hmm.
It was actually very revolutionary in terms of filming TV shows now in live action fantasy stuff, because it introduced a 360 projected scene.
Oh.
So tell them, yeah. So it's actually really, really cool because beyond Star Wars itself, it means a lot for all types of fantasy-related like television shows if they introduce this technology. Because Star Wars always broke the mold for technology. Like the prequels were the first movies to really do like CGI, like hardcore CGI. Like the droids and the clones and all that was all CGI stuff. They never really did that before. The original Star Wars films, like lightsabers, that was a first. A lot of different things, like using miniatures to kind of like they broke the mold on a lot of stuff. And they redid that in the live actions that they did recently. They redid like the whole. Anytime you see a ship in the new Star Wars content that's live action, that's a miniature. that's being shot and done the same way in the original movies. But what's crazy is that let me see if I could find an exact image of a scene. Because there is this one scene, and I want you to tell me if it's green screen or blue screen or what. So I'm gonna show you an image, a still, and I want you to tell me if it's CGI or not. Because it's always crazy to me. Everyone always has a different opinion of it. So I sent the both of you a still.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what's CGI and what's real in that still.
I see. Obviously Baby Yoda is like probably like a
Baby Yoda is full practical effect puppeteering. Everything about him moves. He is being puppeted and walking, and anytime you see him walking in the show.
Yeah, that's like the one thing I knew about Mandalorian.
Yeah, they did all the same thing like in the old movies. They did all puppeteering, droids. That episode's really fun. Y'all like that episode because it has spiders in it. The ship is a prop, physical prop. That rock is a physical prop. The snow is a physical prop. The ice wall is not a physical prop.
Oh.
So the new series, anything you see now, 9 times out of 10, the backgrounds are all projected screens that the actors can see.
Oh.
It's not green screen, it's not blue screen, it's a white screen projector that projects the entire atmosphere of where they're acting. And the rest is all like physical prop sets. And they act in those sets, and it from what I remember hearing and watching when they did like the behind the scenes for a lot of these things, was the actors were all very blown away by feeling like they were literally in the universe doing this role. It's very revolutionary technology because they will have like a person that can control the set on the fly. Let's say they were like, oh, we're shooting this scene at daytime. No, let's make it the afternoon. Let's make it nighttime. And then they can make the entire set dim the lights to make it look like it's nighttime. They can change the background to go from like a sunset skyline to a nighttime sky. They build the entire set. Are you talking about the volume? Yeah. yeah. I'm telling them all about like how the new live actions, how they film like these live actions now. It's so crazy to me. As like, I'm a film major. I took media and communications, and I was into film focus for like 4 years. So it's just crazy to me how revolutionary that is for like any sort of film, and just being able to project a fantasy sci-fi setting and then just put some like physical props in there, and then boom, you got it. It utilizes Unreal. So they make it all in Unreal Engine, the set, and then they just like project that bad boy on there.
That's
it's
so
really
cool.
It's really
it's really
cool.
neat.
There's you don't even need to like know anything about Star Wars really to enjoy these like especially the Mandalorian. Like that's actually like, I wouldn't even argue that's like a good starter of a series to watch. Because they really do a good job at retelling these stories to you, and they let you know like, what does this mean, and they introduce it in a not too invasive way, and they tell you all about all the fun little stuff, like and it's just another thing too, like the scene right here where they're like kind of chilling in a village, and this episode like that whole foresty background, that's all projected. That's all Unreal Engine.
Dang.
But and then the house, I think in the further background is probably projected as well, but the foreground houses that they're all standing on, all that's like built. That's all set, and that to me is just really mind-blowing. I'm very excited. And no expressions, pro tag acting. The Mandalorians are really, really funny for that. And I was actually really sad. Faceless. Yeah, I was really sad to hear that there was a problem because I like Pedro Pascal's acting a lot. I like them in everything they're in. So the first season and the second season, and then the Book of Boba Fett, which he pretty much is like season 3 of The Mandalorian. Um, so like those, or rather more like that's more like season 2, and then season 3 is actually season 2 of The Mandalorian. But um, he was acting, physical acting for a lot of them, but the most recent season of The Mandalorian, he was mostly a voice role. And there was a problem, because he was wearing his helmet and there was a lot of fight scenes. And, if the actor's a character that wears a helmet all the time, we don't need to pay them the full price that they're worth, right? Because it's Pedro Pascal, you're probably paying a lot for his face.
Yeah.
So there was a big problem at one point where they were like, yeah, I want my full pay. And then they're like, no, you're literally only a voice role for most of this, so we're not going to give you full pay. But I believe they came to a agreement which wasn't too destructive. But it was really, really awesome to finally know that no, he's not always in the costume. He's only in the costume like maybe like 3 or 4 times. The rest is a totally different person. But it's kind of cool to hear about that and be like, oh, okay. And we got another really cool thing was there's this one guy that they introduced in the Dave Filoni like cartoon shows named Thrawn. Now, this is kind of cool, is how they've brought these cartoon characters to the screen into live action. Like we got Ahsoka live action now. We've got like a live action Ahsoka. We got her in The Mandalorian first before she even had a show. But seeing a lot of these like cartoon characters that Dave Filoni wrote and created become like real life acted characters from like 2D to real life is just so crazy to me. Like we got one of the biggest threats to Star Wars now, like one of the biggest, scariest old Legends characters that wasn't canon, made canon, Thrawn. They introduced him in like the cartoons, and I believe I'm trying to remember the name of the actor. Let me get their name. Thrawn. I'll just type Thrawn. The voice actor for Thrawn is the brother of his name's Lars Mikkelsen, but his brother is it Thor Mikkelsen? Not Thor Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen. Do you know Mads Mikkelsen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
His brother plays this character in Star Wars named Thrawn, and Thrawn is like the big bad of like the Empire that remains. He's like, his nickname is the Hair of the Empire. His brother is Mads Mikkelsen. So it's kind of crazy that these two are, both in. They're just really good at what they do.
Yeah.
What was really cool is he introduced like Thrawn. In voice acted, really good voice acting portrayal of Thrawn, which is like this like intellectual, very enigmatic. When you see like a Star Wars Imperial officer, you think like super posh and super incompetent, but also like putting on like the fake airs of being competent because of stature and status and all that. But he's actually like OP. Like he's actually a very smart, like he's like emperor tier like of a threat because of how smart he is and tactical he is about things. And he doesn't make mistakes very often. And they portray him and he gets a lot of people killed when he gets introduced. And then he used to be old like Legends lore, and he was very scary into Legends lore as well. Is Mads in Star Wars at all? Mads is in Star Wars actually, which is funny. Yeah. He's in Rogue One. He's he's the Death Star architect, which is also kind of funny actually that he's in it too.
Yeah.
He's the my Stardust. dies of cringe. So Thrawn is like the big bad that I was talking about earlier that they kind of build up at the end of Ahsoka. The Empire falls, then it becomes scattered and warlike, where we're at right now. They're all like a bunch of warlords controlling their territories that they used to be in charge of. And then they create like a shadow council to try to get some sort of organization back, and Thrawn is apparently in charge of all of that, and he's the heir of the empire, and they introduce him now in like the new stuff. He's like the big bad threat, and he is a huge threat because he's actually competent and he knows what he's doing. The only reason why it wasn't like that big of a deal in the old series is, once again, they kind of wrote him out. They wrote him out as that is just like he got basically like exiled out of the galaxy and taken out of the galaxy, but he gets brought back, and now he's back into play. And he's here. And he's a threat. He's like the Thanos of Star Wars, basically. And it's just cool seeing like a cartoon character get portrayed in live action, and it's also the same VA that's physically playing him. They made him perfect. They did that a lot with a lot of characters, like Cad Bane.
Oh, that's so cool.
Cad Bane's a crazy one. They brought him into live action too, which was honestly one thing I never expected. Cad Bane's like this. He's a bounty hunter. He's even more ruthless than you would imagine than like Jango Fett or Boba Fett were. Like he's like actually just like, you know those old westerns, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He's like Clint Eastwood.
Oh.
Clint Eastwood ruthless. Like really just like will shoot you first.
Yeah, I remember this guy.
Yeah,
I think that's around the time I stopped watching Clone Wars.
Yep, he is a new character from the Clone Wars. They introduced him in there, and then he's somehow still alive. He's an old man, but he's alive, which is kind of crazy because his race of alien, they're called Duros, and they don't live for very long. Like they're like have like even less of a life expectancy than like a human would of that era. And I think like humans in Star Wars age like live for like, I think they lived to like 150 to 200. So like Duros like are like normal human age. Like they live for like maybe 100 years with like a good life. And this guy is a bounty hunter that goes into gunfights all the time. So he's just like really rugged. And they showed him in like the Boba Fett series, which is kind of cool because he kind of takes on Boba Fett as like a protege for a bit, and they have a bit of a rivalry because who doesn't have a rivalry in like a bounty hunter story? Big sexy hat, trench coat bounty hunters, we love them. We love when our bounty hunters walk with like the cowboy spurs and they jingling wherever they walk into a scene.
Yeah.
That's how they actually like they teased Boba Fett in a show, and the only way they teased him and everyone knew immediately was somebody's feet walk onto set like in boots. And then they play like the spurs hitting the ground because that was like a thing because they wanted to portray him as like a cowboy in the old movies, so they gave him spurs. The clones are really cool. I think like that's one of the things I'm really appreciative though, is Dave Filoni created a clone named Rex, and you probably know him from the show.
Yeah.
Captain Rex is such a sweetheart and such a silly old man, and I'm so happy that he has lived for as long as he has, because it is just a very fun character that they created. They gave so many clones so much personality in that cartoon, and what I'm hoping to see is more clone shenanigans in the live actions. Hopefully,
yeah.
Like Rex theoretically could pop up in a live action. They kind of show him a little bit in the most recent Ahsoka thing, but he isn't like a face role or a talking role. I mean, he as well has his voice actor is like an actual actor like that does acting. I mean, he plays Boba Fett. He was literally Boba Fett in live action, so
Yeah.
they could totally have them both like in live action too. Last clone we got the live action was there was like a clone because after the Clone Wars ends, which the Bad Batch tells that whole story really well, which is like what happened to all the clones after the war ended. they all get like either reallocated to some like science facilities or high target like facilities like watch things or like outposts in the middle of nowhere to basically die off of old age and just watch it till they die like nothing. They take them off of the field and then they replace them with stormtroopers. So a lot of them either just like retire or they get reallocated, or worse, which was something they started to hint at, was that they were just experimenting on them as like live subjects because clones. Yeah, they just kind of strip all their rights away. And yeah, in the Obi-Wan series, you see like a really rugged, like grimy looking stormtrooper just like begging for credits in like the street because that's like a veteran, and how unfortunately like a lot of veterans kind of got treated and get treated by our governments sometimes, is they just, you know, they get abandoned, which is really tragic in its own right, and also something I didn't expect Star Wars to ever portray.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh wow. Yeah, it's really tragic how the clones get treated. They're treated like heroes, and then they became just like, you know, people forgot about them completely and or vilified them. That's like the story about a lot of Star Wars, I guess. It's usually it's the heroes eventually get treated like trash, but then it's always like the story about Star Wars. It's a story about hope and getting through that.
Yeah.
And on like a more macro level of storytelling for Star Wars, it's just like it's a story of hope. I cry every time. Oh yeah, the Commander Cody looks. Battlefront 2 campaign is great. I think Battlefront's recent remade game was really good, and it got treated badly, and I'm glad EA no longer holds Star Wars license.
Yeah.
I'm still very livid because that game, a lot of people still play it, but it gets no more content updates. There were so many content updates planned, a lot of characters that they're going to introduce, a lot of planets and everything. They stripped the idea of like the galactic conquest from the old Battlefront 2 was like my favorite thing about the game, where you'd get your ships and resources and buy supplies and then go planet to planet to planet and conquer things. They totally stripped that out of the game. Like the new Battlefront games, they look beautiful. They're so beautiful. People just mod them now like crazy because they're no longer like EA official, but I wish they did not, like, I wish that game didn't fall off. I really wish it didn't.
Yeah, it's a shame it got abandoned, but like, I remember recently because like there was an announcement when that game was announced like a while back, where they're like, hey, here's all of the Star Wars games in the pipeline right now, and they announced like 5 or 6 games.
Yep.
And I was like curious one time, I'm like, what other Star Wars games have come out from that announcement? And I went back, I'm like, oh, none of them.
None of them.
Like all of them got canceled.
Yep. They just kind of, EA really dropped the ball on a lot of that stuff. Very disappointing. But they don't hold the license anymore, and now hopefully we can get some more really awesome content. Yeah. I mean, Jedi Survivor was great, but even that like dev team kind of got massacred by EA. And that's a whole other discussion in itself about just like how dev teams. Listen, if it wasn't Star Wars I'd talk about right now, I'd talk about Dragon Age for hours.
Oh yeah.
I love Dragon Age, and that is also just a game that's like fighting for its life right now in development.
Yeah.
That's why I draw tarot cards, because the Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, I haven't played too much of Dragon Age, but I was always obsessed with the tarot cards in it.
Yeah, that is like kind of the renaissance of tarot card art on the computer, like online. I think was just like Dragon Age Inquisition. It's like, oh yeah, we're telling stories of our NPCs in the game that you love through the tarot cards, and I'm like, oh my god! And then little Carl's like, I love me some tarot art, yippee! And then I'm like looking and seeing all the things people make, and then I don't know, that just became the thing I do now. I've gotten to make some fun Star Wars tarot cards. Occasionally, someone will be like, "Carl, draw my Sona in a Star Wars scenario. I want my character drawn like a Star Wars character in this tarot card. I got like 3 of those once, and I'm just like, oh fuck yeah, like let's do this. Oh, I love Star Wars. I'll show you all this one art piece. I'm actually Jal Meowpie and I are getting another piece. We all got a piece of Star Wars art together. Oh no, wait! I need Jal to send it to me. Jal, I'm on my home computer. I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
Jal, give me the Star Wars art we got. Send it to me now. Now. Wait, I can wait. He's in the other room. Jal.
Yeah.
Send me the Star Wars art. Come over here. Come over here. Hold on. No, I know. Just come over first. No, but come over here. You can hang out. Open my door because I'm loud. What's your favorite Star Wars show that you got to watch so far?
Oh, God, what was the Clone Wars was fun.
You like the Clone Wars cartoon?
Oh God, I hear myself because I'm listening to this stream.
Oh,
Hi, Joel.
Hi, Joel.
they're both saying hi.
Hello. Oh my.
This is the art that we
Hello.
got together.
Oh, see.
If you want to post that and show it to peeps, but we're gonna be getting a new piece
Yeah.
of all of our characters together. I'm very excited.
That's so good. Hang on, I'll bring it up on stream.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it made me so happy. Well, just like this one right here, that's now like behind me and like, oh my.
Oh, don't bite me. No, stop. Oh. Took this. Why are you doing this? Now you're licking it. Now you're blowing raspberry on your own spit. Oh my arm. Now it's so wet. No, I'm wiping it on you.
Don't wipe it on me. Oh, don't touch my hair. Okay.
Too late. Love you.
I'll be seeing you in a little bit. Yeah, but
Yeah, that art's so good.
thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. When I was becoming a furry / new to the fandom, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't know if I'd ever get art of my Sona. And then I got art of my Sona, and I was like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now. Yep.
I did, because listen, if I didn't close the door, you'd have been hearing Jal the entire well, you probably wouldn't mind, but you'd have heard Jal the entire time. Because he's my loud little bug.
Yeah.
But that's my Star Wars info dump. Thank you for coming. I will now be struck down and become stronger than you could ever possibly imagine. Thank you. This is fun. I'm also really happy
Yeah.
to be able to do something with the both of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
I was so excited when you replied and you're like, oh, I want to talk about Star Wars. And Jackie and I were like, oh my God, I want to listen to Carl talk about Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm very happy. You two make me very happy, and I just want to say, as I'm literally starting to fucking cry, because that little thing right there that you just said that made me cry. Happy tears, but I'm very happy for the both of you. I know you hear this a lot. And I can't express it enough as somebody that also just absolutely will kill someone for the one I love.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for the both of you. I'm glad that the two of you can finally just be together and be yourselves and be happy, and that you're flourishing, because you deserve that. You belong in a happy and safe environment, and you can all you both you work so well together. So
Oh,
and thank you so much for being my friend. Thank you so much for being
course.
Jal and I's friend, and for having us
Yeah.
around.
You two are
Jackie and-
fucking awesome.
Yeah,
we
Jackie
talk about you
and
all
I
the time.
constantly talk about how cute you two are.
Yeah.
I need my tissues. Yeah. Oh. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Please play Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Please play
I-
Star Wars.
I've
It's good.
been thinking about it for a while, but I think you convinced me.
It's a good story. Oh, it's so good. Like this story that it's a very listen. Cal is a sad little meow meow. Okay, like he's a sad little meow meow, and he gets put through a lot. It's great. It's good storytelling and fun gameplay. Well, I don't know what to do now.
Well,
Well, needs back in chair. How about them Jets?